Welcome to the Cyber Defense Roundtable, sponsored by Hexis Cyber Solutions. Our guests for the hour are Bill Jackson, cybersecurity journalist with the Tech Writers Bureau, and Todd Weller, the Vice President of Corporate Development at Hexis. I'm Amy Morris, WNEW News Radio 99.1. Welcome, gentlemen, to the cybersecurity panel.
Thank you.
Now, we want to get started right away with the cyber threats. Everybody has been talking about everything from their personal information being hacked at places like Target to OPM. People are still getting notifications from a hack or a breach that happened months and months ago. Is it something that is happening more often? Is it that we are all integrated and online? Or is it because the information is out there and we know what to look for? Why has this seemed to really become more prolific now? I want to start with you, Bill.
I don't know that it's happening more often, but there have been in the last couple of years more often high-profile, successful breaches. And the reason for that is just simply that the information is out there. There is a wealth of very high-value targets for criminals, nation-states, and anyone else who wants to get it, whether they're looking for money, military, political, or business advantage. As long as those targets are out there, people are going to come after them. And it's getting increasingly easier with more of that information going online, more sources networked. There's nowhere you can put it where it's going to be absolutely safe.
Todd, is it boiling down to money? Is that really what this is all about, or is there more to it?
It's money, it's economic advantage. Information has a lot of value, whether it's health records or credit card. You can go on black markets and see what those are going for these days. And I would agree with what Bill said. The world's more digital. The attack vectors are, there's more of them, right? From smartphones, mobile devices, to cloud. Information is everywhere. It's moving all around. And one thing I would say is attacks are more continuous. So we've seen, just in 2015 alone, OPM and Sally Beauty Supply experienced two high-profile breaches. They experienced high-profile breaches in 2014. So this will continue to recur. The other thing that's important to note is while this is happening more frequently, some of this is around breach disclosure. 5-6 years ago, you wouldn't have heard much about this, but now the laws require companies to disclose this. So
that was one of the things I wondered, if a change in the laws and the regulation actually makes it even more pronounced. It's almost not even a top news story anymore when there's a major breach, unless you're talking 30 million, 40 million, 100 million people, or a major federal agency like OPM, because somewhere along the line you would think that the government would have had a handle on this. But Bill, in your experience and as a journalist in this field, what have you found?
Breach notification has played a big part of this, and California started this and set the de facto standard for the fact that if you do get hit, you have to let people know. And another reason why the number of attacks seems to be increasing is we have gotten better at monitoring our systems and protecting our systems. Cybersecurity has not been an absolute failure, despite the constant drumbeat of failures that we do see. And the better we get at detecting malicious activity, the more malicious activity we're going to find. I don't think anyone thought that there even was a cybersecurity problem until some wise guy invented the firewall. And that invented hacking, because nobody knew they'd been attacked before then. And
nobody's going to break into my house until I set the deadbolt.
Yeah. I mean, as long as you don't have the camera on to see who's coming in the middle of the day or the middle of the night when you're not there, you don't have a problem.
Does that boil down, is that mostly an industry and agency type of thing to be monitoring the systems that you talked about and how we're getting better at that? Or does that boil down all the way to the individual, me monitoring my own system, my own checking account, my own credit history?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both, but I think from an end user perspective, it's really about being educated. You're seeing corporations now do more cyber simulation training, phishing exercises, because the human and the endpoint is the weakest link. If you look at how a lot of these attacks happen,
sure,
it's a human that's clicking on email or providing some information that their credentials get compromised. So it is an education issue. I think from take my perspective. I'm not really monitoring my credit card statements anymore. From our perspective, right, if a credit card gets breached and there's fraudulent transactions, what are the repercussions to us? We have the inconvenience of getting a new card issued, but the banks take on the liability for that.
I think one area where the government has been a leader in this is in continuous monitoring. They've made that now the de facto standard for how agencies are supposed to be defending their systems. And once the government started requiring this, industry then is required to step up and provide the technology to make this possible. So government has led in the more continuous monitoring of our IT systems. And I don't know if the end user is really that much more aware or not. And I've always said, I've written about cybersecurity for years now, and I've always said that any security program that relies on me as a user to be successful is doomed.
I actually was just about to ask, but considering you write about this stuff and considering this is your life, are you both more paranoid or are you both more nonchalant? I mean, how do you see it affecting you personally? Just curious.
I'm aware of it, but I'm still too lazy to do all the things that I should do, and I probably make a target of myself by saying this. I do not practice good password security. You know, I have all the failings everyone else has in this because it's just much easier. I use a computer for convenience, and it's much more convenient not to be too secure.
I have to admit also my password habits are very bad, but that's starting to change, not because of me, but the password requirements for many sites are becoming a lot more complicated. They're not letting you use your name. They're not letting you use, you have to use capital numbers. So to me, I'm doing a lot of password resets because I can't remember all these different passwords. One thing, Amy, I'd like to bring up as far as the attack environment and something that's changed is it's a lot easier for the attackers to get tools to attack.
What do you mean?
So the ability to launch an attack, to get an exploit, to get everything you need, it's on the internet. You and I'm not the most technically sophisticated individual. I don't write code. I could go online and download the capabilities. There's a graphical user interface. I could test this malicious code to see if it gets past the antivirus scanners, and I could launch it. So it's a lot easier, and a lot of the up-and-comers, these millennial generation, and whatever my son's is, right, they're very technical. So it's easy for them to go out, get the tools to launch attacks.
Yeah, there is a sophisticated underground market for selling sophisticated tools so unsophisticated people can use them. And these organizations come complete with customer service and easy-to-use graphical interfaces. And so they've really made malware a commodity.
You can outsource your attack if you want. Amy, you can go online and there is attack as a service. You pay for it. It's done for you.
Yeah, if you want to order several thousand or a million,
like mercenaries online,
compromised computers for your own botnet, you can rent them by the hour or however long you need them to launch an attack.
But it seems like that would leave such a trail that you would be caught immediately. No, because the tools will help hide you.
Well, there is the dark web, right, which is
Right.
the area of the web that's tough to see, and then there are things like the Tor network, which encrypts communication, so they can't really tell where it's coming from.
On the other hand, this isn't a perfect defense. We do find, arrest, and prosecute people. It's a very small percentage, and we're not really winning in this game, but it does happen. Occasionally, people get convicted and go to jail for things they get caught doing online.
I think you've seen more of that this year. J.P. Morgan attackers just got indicted or arrested this week.
Yeah, and it's not just government. Microsoft has an active program of pursuing legal avenues against people they see as a threat.
It would seem like the banks, especially for credit card threats and things like that, would also want to pursue legal action, would also maybe even have their own, I don't know, strike force to sniff out things like this.
They do. I think the challenge is attribution is not necessarily easy to figuring out who attacked you, where it came from, and oftentimes they're in foreign countries where it's very challenging to be able to take any legal action.
So where are things going to be going from here? We know how it is now, and it sounds just from what you're saying that either the good guys are one step behind or right neck and neck with the bad guys when it comes to the technologies and the tools to be able to prevent or sniff out an attack that has happened or is in the process. So where does it go from here? Is there any light at the end of this tunnel? Because now that you've scared the heck out of everybody.
I think the tunnel's getting longer and longer.
What do you
I don't
mean?
think there's any light at the end of it. As fast as we're going, we're just trying to keep up with the bad guys. And the technology that we're using every day is evolving so quickly. And it's not being developed with security in mind for the most part. So
I mean like basic apps and things we would have on our mobile phone, things like that.
Yeah, what we're doing online is so far outpacing our ability to secure it that there is always going to be this window of opportunity for the bad guys as long as they have the motivation to exploit it.
It's the perennial rat race. So I think one of the things you're seeing is a change in mindset that we can't prevent everything. Bad things are going to happen. So anticipate breach, but be prepared to deal with it. So that's why you're seeing more organizations say, okay, I invested a lot in prevention, and prevention's important, but I need to be able to detect and respond to bad things. And just piggybacking on what Bill said earlier, I think continuous is a very important word and a shift that's going on. And it's not only continuous monitoring, it's continuous vulnerability assessment, it's continuous response, because these attacks are not going to slow down.
Okay, let's stick a pin in it for now. We're going to take a quick break, and we want to pick it up right there as far as what's going to be happening next and how companies, corporations, how we can all better protect ourselves. You are with the Cyber Defense Roundtable. We will be right back after this.